hmm Hello everyone. Uh, Today I'm gonna do a weird video. Sorry for that. But basically, I had a university project to analyze a music video for references, and I thought, why not analyze my own? I am about 10% sure that this will probably not work out for me, but it was very fun to do, so I kind of wanted to share it as well. So I will be analyzing my own music video Freedom. So if you want to, you can go check it out right now. It is on my YouTube channel. It's pretty old, like 2 years old. So yeah, it is an RSMV. So back when I used to do them. So yeah, if you want to check it out, check it out. But I will begin the analysis without showing the video because obviously the video is right there. I will link it in the description. Anyways, let's begin. So first of all, we have to analyze the thumbnail. Now, as we can see, in the thumbnail it says the name of the song, the creator's name, which is my name, and then it says RSMV. RSMV stands for two things. It should only mean real source music video, but for also it could mean RuneScape music video. So it's basically a subgenre of a subgenre of a genre of a music video, because a music video has a genre which is a real source, which is a subgenre of gaming, which is a subgenre of specifically RuneScape as a video game. Now that that's over, let's go over the references, shall we? So the references in here are rather weird. We can see a big long road, which is quite obviously usually in cultural media, in films, books. Freedom, which is the name of the song, is something that people strive for, that there's a journey to get, and a journey is represented by a road. Or, as if we were to put the two words together, it would be a road to freedom. So the road in this thumbnail is a reference to classical literature from whatever age, because this has been a constant within the cultures of various countries. Now, as for the big skull-like head thing, that is actually the head of a character named Anti-Santa from RuneScape, where the music video is based in. This Anti-Santa, his beliefs is that there is the good and the bad, and one cannot change the world if they do not see the bad as well as the good. So basically, what he stands for is a roadblock to be able to change the world, which essentially is a roadblock to true freedom. And this makes it not a reference, because the head on the road is acting as a direct roadblock, as are his ideas that are literally direct roadblocks to freedom, or rather solutions to surpass those roadblocks. However, we are not speaking here as if to justify Anti-Santa's existence, but rather his ideals in purest form, which speak about Roblox. So he speaks about Roblox. He is a roadblock in the video. It is not a reference, but rather a direct representation, because his ideas represent a roadblock, and his ideas are in his head, which literally is a roadblock. Therefore, it's not a reference, but rather a direct representation. So, from the thumbnail alone, we can see one extra textual reference, because it is a reference to culture in literature, films, movies, whatever. That a road to freedom is an often used combo, you could say. Now let's start with the actual video. This was basically the intro up to this point. Sorry for the notification. Anyways, as we can see, we have a slide. We are asking a question: extratextual or intertextual? Extratextual is basically when something is referencing something outside of the current text. In our case, the text is the music video. So if there's a reference, for example, from classic literature or films, just like in the thumbnail, that would be an extratextual reference. An intertextual reference is when the music video is referencing itself. It's its own music video. It's referencing itself. So, what do these three first lines have to do with it? Well, first of all, the chord progression for the song is 4 chords. It goes 1, 1, 1, 1, and then repeats itself all over again. However, I believe that the first 3 lines are more connected towards the same kind of references. There are actually multiple references in these lines. Now, in the first line and the second line, visually, we can see cabbages. Or in the second line, the man is turning into a cabbage somehow. In the third line, the man is standing near a cabbage field. So how is this a reference? Well, in the first line, we can actually see that the character is directly asking the question. The first thing he does where in the music video is ask the person a question, meaning he doesn't have the resources to know what he should do. He doesn't have the intelligence, he doesn't know the current situation, so he doesn't have the resources. Now, who else doesn't have any resources? Obviously, babies. How are these three lines connected to babies exactly? Well, in Lithuanian and some other cultures as well, if a child asks their parents how are babies born, a common answer would be a stork brought them, but also they grew up in a cabbage patch. Therefore, the cabbage patches in the second and the third line of the video. It's basically the second line shows the reference, it references, and the third line gives more time to realize what the reference actually is. There's also, so this would be an extra textual reference because it obviously references Lithuanian culture. Now, for the intertextual reference, because there's one of those as well, we can see that in the first line, the character is holding up a book saying, never knew what I want to do. And the second line, there's 3 paths left, which do I choose? Now, in the second line, there is 3 paths, and the character is quite literally stuck between 3 of them. However, that would be a direct representation because there's literally 3 paths, and you don't know which one to choose. The reference here is that in the first line, where it's never knew what I want to do, the character casts a spell which lets you choose between 3 options. Just how the second line is talking about 3 options. There's 3 paths left, so which one do I choose? This is honestly could be a reference on its own. However, we also have the third line to consider here. The third line, the time is ticking, forcing me to move, is actually very integral because you could choose the 4th option, which is obviously to do nothing, to wait. However, what's stopping the character from waiting and doing nothing is the fact that time is ticking, forcing them to move, just like we see in the third line right here. So basically, this animation is a reference, an extra textual reference to a spell in the game, which intertextually references the video because the spell is cast in the video, and then that references the video going forward. So this could either be seen as an extra textual reference plus an intertextual one, or purely an intertextual one, and I believe it stands for both because the knowledge that this spell, that this animation specifically does that, is quite niche. So you would need extra resources. You can't find that information in the music video itself. No one would tell you that, hey, this animation is for the spell, unless you choose between 3 options. You don't know that. No one would know that just from the music video. Therefore, it's in a different text. It's in the game text, not in the music video text. Therefore, it's an extra textual reference that once it gives you the information, you can see the intertextual reference within the video. So it stands for both references. And if you're wondering what I'm jolting down on this piece of paper here, I'm counting the references to know how many there actually are. Now, let's move on to the next line, I suppose. And there is a conditional reference within this line. The character is seen near a castle. More specifically, it is this castle right here. Now, where is the conditional reference? Where, just like in the first few lines, as we could see here, you needed an extra textual reference to get the intertextual reference. Well, in here, I don't believe there's an extra textual reference. I believe that is just a conditional reference in general. Obviously, no one can get all references. However, if you know the game's lore, at least 2 years ago lore, I don't know if you changed it, I haven't played the game that much afterwards. However, basically, he's standing near a castle and saying the line decision making isn't my strong suit within the audio. So why is this a reference? Well, this castle is directly in between 2 quest locations. In fact, 2 of the very few quests where you can actually make a choice. These are the quest names, which is Haziel's cult. You can choose whether to side with the cult or with the family. And the second one, you can choose whether to side with a person named Lucian or you can kill the person named Lucian. So you actually have a choice. You actually have the freedom, as is the name of the music video. So it is a conditional reference because everything is happening within the music video, but you wouldn't really know, you wouldn't really get the reference unless you actually had the knowledge. And nothing is referencing you towards that knowledge, if that makes sense. So yes, this is a reference to the fact that this location where the character is in, which is right here, is literally sandwiched between two of the quest start locations where you actually have the freedom to choose what you want to do. Now, this may have changed. This information is 2 years old, so I'm not sure anymore. Maybe they added more quests where you can do this, but back then, these two quests were probably the biggest examples. Now, let's move on to the next lines, and the next two lines, I want to point out the fact that the audio and the video are actually separate parts or separate realities of the music video. You see, in the first line, well, in technically the fifth line, but the first line of the next chord progression, we see, I didn't know anything, just played around. Wait, actually. How was it actually? It was, I'm mistaken, this is actually the second and the third line of the video. I apologize for that. But basically, it is, the sun is setting again, I didn't know anything, just played around till the end. You say it's fine, it's okay, you have plenty of time, you being nice, break the ice, don't let me hide like mice. So, in the second and the third lines of this chord repetition, we see that there is what you would consider to be a typo within the music video, because the audio says I didn't do anything, just played around till the end. However, we see visually that it is I didn't know anything, just played around till the end. While this is rather fine, it's just that the how do you say these cabutas, these things where you put about the mistake. So these marks in Lithuanian they are on the bottom and on the top, and believe it or not, the creator, which is me by the way, you actually have to put the bottom ones first, so, and the top ones later. So that could technically be a reference, however I don't really think it is, as it is very, very, very out there. So where is the reference, you might ask? Well, first of all, this kind of creates a sense of not sync, like the video and the audio aren't synced up. Basically, I didn't do anything, just played around till the end is the audio, and I didn't know anything is the video, the visual side of this music video. So this is technically not a reference, this is just kind of a fact that you can point out. So where is the reference in this exactly? Well, the reference in this exactly is that all the actions here done are in the Falador party room. The Falador party room kind of doesn't have that much of an event to associate to it. However, it is very close to a location, or the town, Falador, within the game. And Falador party room is obviously inside of Falador, as it's literally in the name. So what happened in Falador? Well, it's probably the most infamous event of RuneScape, where a bug was kind of abused, and a person managed to kill players in a safe area, which led to hundreds or maybe even thousands of hours of progress lost to all of them due to that incident. So what you see by that incident is that it was definitely a bad thing. People losing their hours of hard work, even if it's for something like a video game, is still a bad thing, 100%. And the tone of the song is, I didn't know anything, just played it right till the end, you say it's fine, it's okay, you have plenty of time. The tone of the song is also very sad and not very like, yay, hooray, let's go. No, the song is sad. The event that it is referencing is sad, and this, you could say it is a stretch. However, I don't believe so, because what further solidifies this reference is the fact that the third line, you say it's fine, it's okay, you have plenty of time. It kind of says that even though you know you did something bad, even though this music is like sad, it's not the most major, like it's a minor key, you can still see that there is kind of a silver lining, is in, it's okay, you have plenty of time, it's fine. So even though you did something bad, it's still okay. Much like in the Falador massacre, if you were in the Falador party room, not the Falador square where the massacre was actually happening, you would largely be okay. So while the action happening is definitely 100% a bad thing, there is still a silver lining because both in the audio we can hear that there's plenty of time, everything is fine, it's okay, and also we can deduct by the visuals that it is also fine, okay, because you stated the location where you are. So these two lines are two extra textual references, or rather to a extra textual reference and kind of proof that the extra textual reference exists. So this is an extra textual reference to the Thalador massacre, which happened in 2006. And the mistake, the typo, you could say, kind of makes it a theory, makes us able to form a theory that the video and the audio aren't actually synced up. Now, the last line of this chord repetition is, "You being nice, break the ice, don't let me hide like mice." You might be thinking that this is a direct representation, as the character is quite literally breaking something that kind of looks like ice. So you might be thinking that it's literally a direct representation. However, I have 2 points against this, and this is in fact a reference. You see, the character says, "you being nice," not me. And the person who's breaking the ice is the same character we saw all along, so it's the me. The me part is here, not here. Someone else is breaking the ice, not the character. Therefore, this can't be a direct representation. So, if it's not a direct representation, how is it exactly a reference? Well, it is a reference because within the game, which is an extra textual reference, actually, because you need to know the game's knowledge. You can't just know this from a music video alone. The quest where you need to actually mine this rock, the character who gives you the quest kind of doesn't do anything. He kind of hides like mice, as portrayed in the audio. Therefore, this is another extra textual reference to the quest, the Knight's Sword, within the video game. Now, let's start with the next chord progression, where it starts with, "and I was grateful for that." So, as we can see here, this is kind of a weird slide. There is a map with 3 check marks, and there is a cleaner. So, why is this a reference? Well, there is actually a reference in this. You see, the character is quite clearly lighting fires. This is kind of a cut-off clip. However, in the actual music video, we can see the character gaining fire experience. So they were trying to master the skill of making fires. However, once they made a fire, they walked into another fire. And obviously you can't light a fire on a fire. That would make no sense. So if someone was lighting a fire, that is probably the most weirdest place to light it, and probably the most useless place to have one. No one will be grateful for that fire. And the other reason for lighting a fire would be to cook something on it. However, as we can see here, this is where the fire is made. This is where this guy is, who cleans up the ashes of fires for those who train fire making. And this is the location of where people can actually buy raw food to cook them on fires. And I'm sorry, I have to put in a charger so my screen doesn't die. So yes, in here, this location is the best suited for fires if you want to cook something, and this location is the best suited for fires if you want to make fires, if you want to train making fires. So this location being directly in the middle, well, almost in the middle will be somewhere here, but here is pretty close, let's say, is probably the worst location to make fires. No one will be grateful for it. It's completely useless. So how is this a reference? First of all, it's a reference to the game's geography. No one will be grateful for this fire ever, because there are 2 locations where the fire made would be actually thought of something good, and people will actually be grateful for it, which is here and here. And here, kind of in between these 2, it doesn't really make sense, so it is not grateful. So it is a reference to the game's geography, which is actually an extra textual reference again, because even though the location of this is within the game, as we can see, we don't see this map within the music video. Therefore, we need extra knowledge. We need game's knowledge, not the music video's knowledge, not the music video's text, to be able to find this kind of reference within the music video itself. Now, we need to move on to the chorus. The chorus is actually very interesting, and it starts with, "Freedom, you're like a meetup of my greatest fears," and then ends with, "talked about by seers." So, first of all, the first line is just a person yelling freedom while casting a spell within the game called Vengeance, which basically recoils the damage you take. However, in the music video, the frame is wider, so you could actually see where the person is, and they're in a location like above Remington, where there's essentially nothing that is worth recoiling. You would need to actually travel for 3 minutes without teleports to be able to find something that is actually worth recoiling, that actually has a meaning for the spell. So why cast a spell? Well, it is a reference to the fact that you have the freedom. However, just because you can do something, you have the freedom to do something, doesn't mean you really should. It might not be the most beneficial, as previously seen with the fire as well. So it kind of solidifies the fire argument that it is a reference, and also is a reference within itself, because the reference is to the fact that you can do whatever you want, doesn't mean you should. And that is only available to us if we know the logistics of the game, where it is not worth recoiling, it's not worth using vengeance here, because there's literally nothing that will gain any kind of benefit from it at all within a very large and generous radius. So this is another extra textual reference. I actually can't remember if I pointed this one down, but I will write it down just in case. Now, next line is "You're like a meetup," and the character is generally seen near a meetup. I don't believe there is any kind of reference in this. I believe it's just a direct representation, because the character is obviously in a meetup and you're like a meetup. The only thing worth pointing out here is that it kind of builds up a side storyline, you could say, to the music video, where the character here, this priest here, is actually a Saradomin priest, so he believes in a god, obviously he believes in religion. And I don't think this is very important, but it is a detail nonetheless, so we kind of have to remind ourselves for later. Now, in the third line, we see "Of my greatest fears," while there's a literal giant demon quite close to the character. So you might think this is a direct representation, right? I mean, it's literally a giant demon right next to the person, and the person is doing the cower emote, the scared emote, where they're literally scared. However, I believe it is not a representation, because I don't think you need to even have the general knowledge of the game. There is a fence between you and the demon. The demon can't touch you. You're once again in one of the safest places to be in right now. There is no way anything is gonna hurt you. So we can actually see this with the music video itself, because there is a fence. It's blocking it. Therefore, it's not a direct representation, and if it is a reference, it is an intertextual one. So where's the reference? Well, we can kind of reference the fact that freedom is taken away when you're blocked behind bars, just like this demon is. While the character, you could make the argument that he's scared of the demon, maybe it is a reference, this cowering from the demon, that the character is afraid of having his freedom taken away and being in the position of the demon. So the character isn't afraid of the demon, he's afraid of becoming the demon, if that makes sense. That's what that means. However, you could also kind of make a point that there is no real reference, that this is just thinking, and this is just critical thinking, and you can kind of depict this from, well, logic, because no one wants to have their freedom taken away. That's pretty obvious. However, I feel like it is still a reference, once again, because it is specifically pointed out in the music video, both in visual and kind of in the audio form as well. So this is an intertextual reference to the fact that the character doesn't want to be locked behind bars, much like the demon currently is in the clip. Now, the end of the chorus is talked about by seers. Now, you can guess that there is another typo in this chorus, as talked about by seer and is. Seer is. Why seer is? Well, basically, from the music video itself, we can kind of see that there is a seer, a lone seer, and the character. So they are interacting with each other. We could guess that they are talking to each other by the character. The conversation is by the character and a single seer. So a seer is talking. That is why the typo is there, and that's once again another proof to the fact that maybe the audio and the visual aren't part of the same universe, but rather are separate things that should be looked at separately. So you might be wondering, where's the reference in that? You just kind of talked about things that don't really make sense. Well, actually the whole line is delivered in the Seer's village, specifically in this building right here. So even though he's talking to a single seer, there are actually a ton of seers, all around him. So this seer is typo is actually a reference to the fact that yes, there is one seer, but also there's 20 of them, and that is an extra textual reference because we do not see the seer within the music video. We only see one seer. However, if you have the game's knowledge, if you have this map, for example, which is another type of text, it is an extra textual reference. So we will write that one down as well, actually. Now, next is verse 2, which starts, "When the sun is shining bright, people will ask you to fight." This is actually a reference to medieval warfare. In medieval warfare, usually, if two armies meet and they're within a reasonable distance of one another, and the night is setting in, they will sleep, and the fight will commence in the morning or in the day when the sun is shining bright, like the line says. However, there are definitely exceptions to this. For example, probably the most famous one would be the Bucket War, which happened in Italy quite a long time ago. So this is a reference to the fact that generally, warfare happened when the sun was shining bright rather than at nighttime. So that is another extra textual reference for us. However, there's also another extra textual reference in this, and the thing is that this character on the right here, where we have our character basically interacting with, he is a Slayer Master. You need to have the game's knowledge of this again, but he basically tells you who to kill, not fight, but kill. Therefore, it is not a direct representation, because in here, the audio says ask you to fight, and this guy quite clearly tells you to just straight up kill, to murder, to end the life, which you could say are connected. However, I believe they're two different things nonetheless, and therefore it is not a direct representation, but rather an extra textual reference, which I believe I marked down this one. So, yes. The third and the fourth line of this chord progression kind of further solidifies this fact that it is not a representation, because in the third line we see it's a war. It's not a person asking you to kill stuff, it is straight up a war. Understandable? So this is kind of further solidifies that reference. However, in here there is not really any reference that could be made in these two lines, visually at least, or even in terms of audio. It just kind of further solidifies that one. And it is actually a direct representation because it's a war made not for you. Obviously, we see a bunch of lizard giant monsters fighting. That is not a war for humans to be involved in. Therefore, it's a war made not for you. So it is a direct representation, not a reference, and there are no references within these two lines because of that. But this direct representation does kind of build up on the fact that the previous reference was in fact a full reference. Now, the next chord progression is back again to being free. Just relax it down and breathe. Don't look for things you want to see, and then you'll burn your wings just like a bee. So, how is this a reference to public running events? Well, the first two kind of have nothing to do with it. The third line is the one that has everything to do with it. Within the music video, we see the character of ours climbing the ladder, and then the green man sprints away the moment he sees our character. So, how is this a reference to public running events? Well, actually, if you ever ran in a marathon or a race that had a lot of people in it, you would know that if you run first, you will actually have a giant advantage over those who run last. Not because of the 20-meter difference that is between you, but because you will have to wait. If there are only two lines on the track, then a person will be passing another person. You will need to wait for the person to pass another person, both of them. So it's just a bunch of small things that add up. You may want to follow someone's pace, and you basically kind of slow yourself down for no reason. So the moment someone sees you catching up to them, you kind of need to speed up so that they don't waste your time by speeding past you. That is where the reference is. If a first place runner is running and the second place is about to cross them, then obviously the polite thing to do, if you were, for example, driving a car, would be to slow down so they could kind of pass you. However, if there's a runner and it's a running event where you want to be the best, then you're going to actually speed up so that he doesn't catch up, just like in the music video we see there. So it is another extra textual reference to just how running works in competitive and in public events, but just in general how how running works. This is a reference to that. And then we have the final line of the verse. Oof, my paper dropped. Where the character says, "You'll burn your wings just like a bee." I personally don't believe there is any reference in this. However, the musical solo that comes after this, there are no lyrics in the middle. It's just 20 or 30 seconds of music. And all these three kind of images or screenshots combined, you can see one common thing. They all have different capes on. And these capes are capes of accomplishment. So how is it a reference to social media apps? Well, social media apps were generally, back in the day, used to show off something cool, to show off something happy, to just spread positivity, share achievements that they managed to get, and things like that. So, just like we can see here, the characters are doing emotes from these mastery capes. They're basically showing off their mastered skill. However, we can also see that there is no people around them. So even though you may have achieved something, people might not care. This is a reference to social media apps because this is the same. A person might achieve something, but people would rather click like on something stupid like an egg spinning around. For example, if you wanted to be a YouTuber, there's a lot of luck involved, not just hard work. Of course, there's a lot of hard work, just how it is to master all these skills. However, there's also a lot of luck because some videos like an egg spinning around for 6 hours for some reason have millions of views, while someone, for example, doing 1,000 push-ups could have 0 views. So again, it is a reference to social media apps that not everything is solely from hard work, but you also need luck, you also need some kind of other factors are in play in social media apps and just in the social media environment in general. Now, next up we have the bridge, which is "Do it, break free, just like a bee you were supposed to see." There are actually very few references in this. In fact, I believe there is only one, which is in the first line, which is "Do it." In here, in the music video, in the first line delivered, we can see that the character casts a spell. This spell actually is a spell used for the farming skill. And believe it or not, the creator, who is me by the way, publicly said inside the game that they do not like farming. So basically they're hyping themselves up to train the farming skill. So it is a extra textual reference to the creator's personal preference on what skill to train. And the other lines don't really have a reference within them. Now, next verse is this is actually the last line of the first chord progression of that last verse, which is what is freedom useful for? For the people's peace or war? Human lives are just a chore. We don't mean shit when Putin's bored. So this is obviously a reference to the invasion of Ukraine that happened a few years ago. However, this reference is very obvious. However, there's also another reference, which is 1994 Treaty of Non-Proliferation. Wait, hold on, I forgot how this said. Actually, just read 1994 Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. So this was a treaty where Ukraine basically gave their nuclear weapons that they got from USSR back to Russia in exchange for their respect of the Ukraine independency. And look where that respect got them. They literally got invaded a few, is that a correct number? Well, quite a few years later. So basically, what is freedom useful for? Just like what is that paper that secures our freedom useful for if Russia just attacks us anyway? So there are two references in this, both are extra textual, to the political climate between Ukraine and Russia and how the whole situation kind of unfolded. Now, it kind of goes again, another reference to the creator. There is another one. Basically, the lines go back again to being me. I'm not a hero, just a bee. I got no job, but I still fly, praying that something's catch my eye. In these 4 lines, I see only one reference. I am me, by the way, which is back again to being me. This is a reference to the creator of the music video, which is me, being Lithuanian. As we saw previously, it was kind of all about Ukraine and Russia. But now it is back to Lithuania, as bringing back the scope to what it originally was, to lower the scope and to focus on the things that the song and the creator actually stand for. So that is what this reference is for, is to reference that the creator is actually Lithuanian. And the next three lines don't really have much of a reference, because even I had a job back then, so that wasn't a reference to my current situation either. Now, then we have the last chorus, which is Freedom, You're Like a Meetup of My Greatest Fears, talked about by Sears. However, it is actually sung You're Just a Meetup, not You're Like a Meetup, You're Just a Meetup, kind of ridiculing what freedom is, which is understandable since within the whole song, the freedom was kind of looked at as a bad thing, or even if you have it, it didn't really do much in Russian and Ukrainian case. So what is this? Well, You're Just a Meetup, this just isn't a reference. It just further solidifies that the visual side of the music video and the audio side of the music video are not within the same realities. One is based in RuneScape visuals, and the audio is based in real life. So that just further expands on that kind of narrative, on that kind of synergy between the audio and the visuals. It is not a reference. So the reference counter, I've actually been counting here. There are 2 intertextual references. There are 2 intertextual references too. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 extra textual references. So there are 2 here, 13 here. That's how much. And then these are the sources I used. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you watch this, I just really wanted to share this. I'm kind of proud of this project myself. And I'll see you later. Bye.